Agriculture is one of the main livelihoods in Sri Lanka. Now, under the situation prevailing at present, farmers point out that they undergo numerous hardships as essential crops that could be grown domestically are being imported. However, the government's position is that there are reasons resulting in the supply being lower than the growing demand. We spoke to some key stakeholders for their take on this issue, which is distressing our local farmers.
The harvests of dry chilies, big onions, green gram, corn and several other essential crops have reduced by 25% compared to last year. The government will have to import these goods, incurring a huge cost since the local harvest is inadequate to meet the demand. The Department of Agriculture says that the government incurs a cost of 7,246 million rupees to import these 6 crops alone. 50% of the annual potato requirement, 60% of the requirement of big onions and small onions, 90% of the requirement of dry chilies, and 10% of the required green gram and corn are being imported at the moment.
The consumer suffers losses because the price in the market rises, which is caused by the increasing production cost. On the other hand, because of the high production cost, the farmer faces a number of issues. If you look on the part of the government and the importers, it is advantageous to them. Why? By importing, the government can charge a massive tax and the importer can earn a good income out of it. Since the majority of the country are consumers, this is a good answer to them. So what happens to the farmer in the country? What happens to the land in the country? Most importantly, what happens to the food security in the country? So as a government, they should think about this broadly and come up with a long-term solution. If they import potatoes, there will be a situation where potatoes cannot be grown. If there is no support to sell what is grown in the country, then there is no use.
The farmers are helpless. How can we live when you import from abroad?
We are not reaping the harvest. There is no point. We have not received a proper price.
They said that they have deposited the money to the banks for the fertilizer subsidy. We have not received any of those things.
The farmers are not people who go behind them asking for government jobs. If they cultivate and if they are unable to earn even 100 rupees, then they will have to commit suicide. In a few days, we will have to beg on the road. It is difficult to continue to depend on the importation of vegetables given the rising prices in the world market. If you take dry chilies, for instance, currently we import around 90% of it to the country. The domestic harvest comes into the market as a vegetable. There are areas in Jaffna which are ideal for potato cultivation. The plans to do this is with the Ministry of Agriculture. Through this, we hope to increase the domestic output and to control the imports.
The agrarian unions have expressed their displeasure over the steps that have been taken by the government to provide technical assistance and the fertilizer subsidies to the farmers.
The farmer has no market whatsoever. There is no regard to reduce the production cost for the farmer. If this situation continues, we will definitely have to depend on foreign countries for our requirement of vegetables and fruits. This will cause local farmers to move away from their crops and cultivations. This will be a national disaster. So we demand this government to uplift the farmer and their crops and provide the required concessions for the farmers to initiate a scientific process. If this does not happen, there will be no way of preventing this from becoming a national issue.
There was an issue with potatoes, so the government imposed a tax of 40 rupees, which was imposed all year round. We are planning on being self-sufficient in potatoes through boosting the productivity of seeds. Corn is usually cultivated in the Maha season. 3 years ago, we were self-sufficient. If we can harvest corn from 8,000 hectares of farmland, we can come close to the 400,000 metric tons, which is the demand. When it comes to big onions, we cannot grow them all year. From January to June, it is difficult to cultivate big onions due to the weather conditions. So we have to come up with a method to bring in harvests during the months of April, May and June. Although we have limited the use of pesticides, we import chili from locations where they use plenty of this. We hope to ensure that we become self-sufficient in this as well.